but it says be fruitful.
Yes.
It already presupposes that you already have the seed.
Yes.
The seed is already in you.
Yes.
You are a moving bag of seed. And God is saying, I have already given you the capital to be fruitful. So he is saying, the seed which I have already put in you, make it develop into a fruit.
Hello and welcome to the Compassionate Couch. My name is Mudzengi, and today with me is Pastor Mudzengi, who has decided to come and share his knowledge on dominion and how substances have been taking away this dominion from us. Pastor Mudzengi, thank you so much for coming through to the Compassionate Couch, where we talk about issues that are affecting people these days.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so Pastor Mudzengi, before we go into talking about substance abuse and how it takes over our dominion as people, I wanted to ask you, just tell us a bit about yourself if you are comfortable, and why also this calls to you, this particular subject calls to you.
Basically, I am Pastor Mudzengi. I am the publishing director for the Zimbabwe East Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, based in Harare. We basically distribute literature to inspire people, to help them understand themselves and to live productive lives.
That's perfect. That's actually wonderful. And I love the fact that you're saying you inspire young people or people just generally to live productive lives. And I am guessing or assuming that is why substance abuse then tends to pain you so much when you see the youth or the young people losing their productivity to something that they were made to have dominion over, as you had highlighted before we started. So I would want people to also get a feel of where we are coming from in the aspect of dominion, why we are saying that substance abuse takes away the dominion that you are given as a person.
Actually, when God created us,
yes,
He created us to have dominion, to be leaders, to have power over the earth. So if you are being dominated by something,
yes,
you are already living against what you were created to do. So as an individual, you can't be dominated by a leaf. You can't be dominated by grapes, fermented grapes, that's alcohol, or any other thing, or a bush. You're actually supposed to have dominion over such things.
Yes,
so when you get dominated by those things, I think God will actually be shocked to say, I created this person to have dominion, to have power over everything under the earth.
Yes.
Now they are under the dominion of a leaf.
Yes. So what then would you say to people? The first question is, how do people lose their dominion to a leaf? You know, how does one person, have you seen a trend of how someone would then come to you and say, as a pastor, I'm sure you've dealt with people that you know that have faced challenges with abuse of substances. Is there something that maybe touches you or speaks to you when you think about it in this direction?
Most of the people who have come to me with issues to do with substance abuse, it's mainly they got into the situation prompted by a lack of purpose. They find no reason to live, and then they try to find meaning in life by engaging in those things, and they end up being captives of those things. Yet they'll be thinking that maybe if I do this thing, maybe I'm going to get my freedom, I'm going to be happy. And then they end up being prisoners of the same things which they are doing.
Wow, okay, so this, they're assuming that they get happiness from substances, right? Because initially, I'm sure when we then come to say substance abuse, right, it means that it's something that you did, right, and you felt happy this time, right? And then the next time that you use the same dose of substance, you cannot reach that certain level. I remember when I was in school, they explained that with dopamine, right? The dopamine spike that you get with substances as well. Once you reach that high, maybe with one glass, I think they were explaining how people then start to binge drink, for example, right? You then find out that a person then comes, right? The first glass, you're already tipsy, you're feeling so happy and high, right? But then the next time you take a shot or a glass, you don't reach that that high that you once reached initially, because your tolerance level has increased, right? You want more and more and more. So it's more like too much of something that's now leading to the abuse of it. You now need to take 6 shots for you to experience that same high that you initially experienced. I think that is maybe
yeah, basically, if someone gets hooked to drugs, the first time, maybe it's just one pull of that cigarette.
Yes.
And then most probably you get choked by it and you start coughing and coughing.
Yes.
But the more you do it, you then get used to it.
Yes.
And then the thing starts now to control you. You normally have control over it. I know my other friend who started smoking, and now they are actually enslaved to smoking. They can't even finish eating their food before they can pull a cigarette. If they don't take that cigarette, they start shivering.
Yes.
So they are under the control of that substance.
Yes.
So you start with one, maybe sip, and then another, and another, and another. You think you'll be drinking the beer. But at the end of the day, the beer will start drinking you, and then you get drunk. It then now controls you. You know, we have control over it. So God created us to have control. And by the way, everything that God created has a purpose. That's why you are talking about substance abuse. That means there is substance use. So the moment you start abusing that thing, you are using it for what it was not created for.
You know, I'm still laughing at the drinking. You really got to me. It was one of the most important things. But actually, now that the substances, right? You're talking about the substances. Then you're saying drinking you. The activities that you're now doing are more or less now affecting your day-to-day life, right? You said that when you start smoking, right? It's an activity that you're taking part in, right? When you start drinking, that's an activity that you're taking part in because of a lack of purpose, right? So I actually loved the fact that you talked about a lack of purpose from a biblical perspective. And I also wanted to add in from a lack of purpose also just generally in your life as a person. You know, sometimes the times that this is how I usually give a lot of reference to my father. He's one of the people that molded me into understanding how to not to succumb to peer pressure or issues like that. So the first thing that he told me was, I grew up asthmatic, right? So it was very, very hard for me to then come in and say, you know what, when we had a garden at home, he would say, there's water in the swimming pool. It was not functioning, right? There's water in the swimming pool. We need to remove the water in the swimming pool. But I'm not going to hire anyone to remove the water. I'm not going to hire anyone to remove the water in the swimming pool, right? So what then did he do? He then said, everyone with a 20-liter bucket, if you can carry 2. So he would make you carry the 20-liter bucket according to your capacity or according to your purpose. I would then love to then give reference to giving according to your talents, right? You remember the issue of the one that was given the 5, the 2, and the 1, right? So I can relate or equate myself in terms of health to someone who was given 1 talent, right? It was not many, but he then came and said, no one is going to bury a talent in my house, right? He gave you the purpose to say, okay, fine. When others are carrying the 20 liters or the 40 liters, carry the 5. That is your one talent. That is what your one talent can get you. But no one is going to be seated. So that's what I also wanted to then bring out in the sense of when you mentioned purpose, to say that purpose can, sometimes we try to find excuses to say that when we want to put purpose up there, right? But we don't want to look at it from a menial perspective, like a small task perspective, which is just watering the garden, right? You see that if now, because I've learned to water the garden, right? I now find it easy. I know my limits, right?
Yes.
I know that I can handle one bed. If it's in terms of vegetables, right?
Yes.
Planting. If I'm able to till one bed, I'm okay. The moment I'm going to the second one, that's when I start facing problems with my health, right? So the purpose then from me, from my perspective, as I was listening to you talking, the purpose for me then comes from to a perspective where we are saying purpose is the smallest thing that you do that removes you, that you love doing. Now I love farming,
Yes.
or just generally gardening. I can't say it's farming because it's just simple gardening, right?
Yes,
I love gardening to the extent that I just go into a shop and I say, you know what, I was taught that very early in the morning, when it's now suitable for me. Remember, I explained the one talent aspect. I don't work like you work. You have your 5 talents in terms of health, right? I have my one talent in terms of health. So I'm now coming in and I'm saying, you know what? This is my one talent. If I am to wake up, I need to wake up at 6 a.m., right? Not 4 a.m. Or if I wake up at 4 a.m., I know that I need to do all the chores inside the house first, because it's still warmer inside the house. It then also teaches you, when you talk about purpose and leadership, right? It also teaches you to then say, you're managing your time and you're managing your activities, more like dovetailing your activities to say, based on you or based on me. So that's how I got what you call it, substance use or substance abuse, actually, from a purpose-driven perspective. Because sometimes when someone just says purpose, we just assume, you know what, purpose is work, purpose is being a CEO, purpose is being something that's very high up there. Purpose is just waking up and making your bed. Purpose is coming in and saying, I have swept the house. Purpose is coming in and saying, if you have this much energy to spend in abusing, because it doesn't take 1 minute, right? You have to be there for you to reach a certain high. Maybe it's 2 hours that you need. And in the 2 hours that you would have used, I'm just trying to come from your purpose perspective, right? The 2 hours that you have used, right? If I was in the garden, right, and I was removing the weeds or transplanting the seedlings that I now have into another place, that now means I have removed myself from a point where I'm idle. I remember the line, an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Devil's work. Yes, the devil tempts all people, but an idle person actually tempts the devil.
Okay. So that's what I actually also got from you speaking in terms of purpose. You can correct me. I am still learning from you in terms of purpose. You can.
Actually, everything that we see and we don't see was created for purpose. There was nothing which God created just for the sake of it. Everything has a function. All human beings also have a purpose. There is something that God wants you to accomplish in life. Like you look at Jeremiah chapter 1, you read verse number 5. God says to Jeremiah, I knew you before you were even conceived in your mother's womb. So purpose comes before the object. So God already sent you into the world with a solution to a particular problem. You need to discover the problem you were born to solve. And then if you are busy solving that problem, you will not be entangled into other things like substance abuse. It's only when you are idle and you are not fulfilling your purpose that these other things come in. If you are busy doing something, you will not encounter the issues of substance abuse.
So now
actually, your purpose protects you from abusing yourself. It's only when you don't know your purpose that you tend to abuse yourself. If you know that I have a purpose and my time on earth is short, you will not waste time doing unnecessary things. You put all your energies towards doing something that is productive. So when you don't have time, when you have a lot of time and free time and you don't know what you want to do, you don't know what you want to accomplish in life, then these things will come and take over.
Yeah, when you're actually explaining about when you have time, right? I then had a thought from one of the lessons that we had recently, where it talked, I think it was lesson 8 in the hope, future hope, and the name is escaping me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The current quarterly that we're doing right now, but. I liked how they bring out how Ellen White explains the aspect of time, right? From eternity past to eternity future, right? Your life is just but a dot.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But, and as you were saying that God created you, when you then mentioned Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, right?
Yes.
When you mentioned about the purpose that you were given, right? Jeremiah, up to this day, I'm going to bring it from this perspective, right? Jeremiah was there thousands of years ago, right? But now, because he chose, right, the life of God, or the life of Christ, you then see that his dot then moves from his point of existence to eternity future, right? So that's one thing that I also got from Ellen White when she was also explaining in terms of your use of time. So how you use your time, like you're saying, is very important in cultivating your purpose. And also, I actually wanted to ask, in the sense of cultivating your purpose, you also then lose a lot of things in without constructive use of time. Exactly. Without the constructive use of time, the first thing that you lose, like the instance that I mentioned, the talents, right? You lose your one talent that you had, right? I can tell you about the benefits of me using my time planting, or me using my time rearing, even though they're just 15 chickens, right? Yes, it's something that gives me it gives
fulfillment.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
so if you don't have anything that fulfills you,
yes,
you will then tend to look for other things that you think maybe this may fulfill me, and you may end up now being hooked to drugs and some such things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this basically is explaining to someone how, maybe we can explain to how not to, right? Because we're saying constructive use of time.
Yes.
Right? So
do you know that all of us are born pregnant?
okay.
We are born with a parcel we are supposed to deliver
Yes.
to planet Earth before we depart. So we need to impart before we depart. That's the purpose of our lives. We don't need to go into the grave pregnant. We need to die empty, like Jesus died. He says, "It is finished." I am not going to the grave with anything. I have actually robbed from the grave by delivering that which God gave me to deliver on earth. So when you are born pregnant, don't stay with barren people. Stay with people who are also pregnant with purpose. You know, when Mary became pregnant and she was carrying Jesus in her womb, the angel Gabriel immediately says to her, "Leave the place where you are, where there are barren people. Go to Elizabeth's place." She was also pregnant with John the Baptist.
Yes.
So if you are pregnant, hang around with pregnant people. If you hang around with people who are not pregnant, you will end up doing anything and being caught in some of these things like substance abuse.
Okay, so let's just assume I have already spent my time with the barren people and I am already hooked with the substances. How then do I unbarren myself, in quotes, because like you're saying, you were born pregnant, right? And we are having, this is more like a chance, right? Or a point of redemption where we are saying, you know what? No, you're not lost. You're not hopeless, right? There's a future for you in this. How then would you then put it across for someone who is already entangled in this?
Basically, we are created in the image of God. We bear the signature of God. You know, the last thing to be put on a product in a manufacturing plant is the name of the company or the logo or the image of the company. So when the company puts that image, after the product has been tested and thoroughly tested and they are satisfied that it will represent us well on the market, that's only when they put the image or the name of the company on the product. So that when it goes out, the company will say, we are proud of our product. So God is actually proud of you. He is proud of me. He knows that I am bearing his image. But if something happens to a product which a manufacturer would have manufactured, actually they do what they call a recall. They say, bring the product back to us. We will actually fix it and then return it back to you. So if you are already entangled in drugs, the manufacturer, who is God, the one who created us in his image, is saying, I have a recall program. And Calvary is a recall program where God comes to us in our sin. And he says to us, where are you? It's not us who go to look for God, but it's him who came down to look for us. So if you walk away from God 20,000 kilometers, you don't need to walk back to him 20,000 kilometers. You only need to make one step back because God has been following you. If you go to Luke chapter 4 in verse number 18, Jesus is putting across his manifesto. And he is in a temple, I think it's a synagogue, and in Nazareth. And then he says, I came to set captives free and to heal the brokenhearted. We are all born broken, and we live by mending. And God's grace is the glue that actually puts us together. So Jesus is saying one of his specializations is actually to set captives free so that you can be free again and have dominion over the things that were dominating you.
Okay, wow, that is so powerful, you know. You mentioned it's Luke 4 verse 18. Verse 18, yes. And then I think I just remember a song that we used to sing when Pathfinders. I had recently become Adventist at that particular time. It went something like, Jesus came to seek and save what was lost, of 1952. So I'm assuming it's 1952 it's like Luke 19 verse 52.
Okay.
I don't know that before aspect because it was just of 1952. So I love the fact that you brought out the aspect of Christ coming to save us, right? And now that I actually wanted to also bring out
we were not created to be captives.
Yes.
We were created to be free.
Yes.
To have dominion, to have control, and not to be controlled. So Christ is saying, bring your broken pieces. And I am here to help you to come out of your prison of substance abuse. Actually,
when you then said Christ is saying that you should come back he is taking you back. It brings me to do you know the story that has been circulating about how it's the Japanese, when a vase or an ornament is broken, they then take gold and they fix it. Instead of using, if it was a clay object, they now use gold to seal those, to bring it back together, right? It's now a masterpiece. It's now more valuable after it has been refurbished. because now they've placed the gold within you. One thing that I actually love about this example is that it also brings out the aspect that once you're broken, right, you have a story to tell. And have you ever noticed how easy it is for people to relate to someone? It's easy for...
Actually, God can actually turn your lemons into lemonade. You can turn your mess into a message, your bitter experience into a better experience.
Yes.
He can turn your situation around. That is what he specializes in.
So that's what I also love about the fact that you're
actually a broken vessel for your master's use. So he says, bring the broken vessel. I can mend it for my use.
So that's very deep. How you know, when you're talking, right? I then get this idea that, you know what, everyone is broken somehow, right?
Yes.
And when we're talking about, I love how God then comes and you're saying, Kuti, he brings in the dominion aspect, right? And the dominion usually does not end from just dominion, right? Or start, it doesn't start or end there, right? There are processes that come with dominion, right? Be fruitful, you multiply, right? If you replenish, and then you have dominion, right?
Yes. Actually, dominion
is the end.
Is a result of being fruitful, of multiplication, and also the subduing of the earth. So it's a result. So you have to start a journey towards it. It doesn't just come from nowhere. It's a process.
So that you're mentioning that it's a process that you don't just say you're starting from here, right? The fruitfulness, right? The multiplication and the replenishment that needs to...
You actually know what? The scripture was supposed to say, be seedful.
Okay.
But it says, be fruitful.
Yes.
It already presupposes that you already have the seed.
Yes.
The seed is already in you.
Yes.
You are a moving bag of seed. And God is saying, I have already given you the capital to be fruitful. So he is saying, the seed which I have already put in you, make it develop into a fruit. So he has already put ideas in you that can actually turn around something.
And the good thing that you made when you mentioned the fruit, the seed, right? I'm just thinking of a mango tree, right?
Yes.
Of the whole aspect of being fruitful and multiplying and replenishing, right? If you plant a seed, right, it brings up a tree, right?
Yes.
You then have a tree with fruits, right? All the fruits have seeds. All the seeds can then be put back into
the soil. Yes, and the process starts again.
That's one thing that I'm actually realizing right now as I'm talking to you, to say that, you know what, you're not lost. You can actually say, okay, fine, I have come, right? I've come as I am to you, Lord, right? And he is the one who brings out the seedfulness, right? Because with the replenishing, it means that there is a seed that's also coming back, right? With every seed that you nurture, there's a seed that then comes out. It then brings me back to the story of is it the tree that the fig tree, exactly, that was not bearing fruit. It became useless, right? You don't just say, okay, I've become fruitful right now. This is the only fruit that I'm saying that I can bring about, right? You need to be able to plant it elsewhere. And the good thing about fruit, right, is it comes with a tree, right? And the tree can become shade to something else or to someone else. And your story, why I like the aspect of the fruit that you have brought in and the dominion that you have brought in, right? The dominion comes with other benefits to it, right? Just like abusing substances comes with its own mental problems, it comes with its own problems that you then start experiencing. Being fruitful and having dominion then comes with other advantages, right? Let's look at the basic advantages. You don't even need to go far in terms of our thinking. The first thing that you have is shade, right?
Yes.
All right. Let me go back. You have photosynthesis. You have the oxygen that's coming back, right?
Yes.
So this is the goodness of the Lord that's coming back. That's why you see God explains His love in Galatians 5:22 as the fruits of the Spirit, right?
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, right? So
Yes.
these are some of the fruits that you get. You don't just get one thing by having it. You get a whole lot of things. I think now we have come to the end, or to the end of our show. Would you have maybe some parting words that you have for us before we leave?
Okay, thank you very much. My parting words are, if you look at nature, a mango tree only produces mangoes. An avocado tree produces avocados.
Yes.
But it's only human beings
Yes.
who try to produce mangoes, who try to produce peaches, who try to produce this and that.
Yes.
We are sort of like general practitioners.
Yes.
But God wants us to do one thing. If you read your scripture, you'll discover that all people who are great, who became heroes, they focused on doing one thing. Paul says this one particular thing. Don't do too many things. Just do one thing, and you will have dominion over that one particular thing. You focus and you put all your energies on it. Yes, you may have many other gifts.
Yes.
But when you focus on the most prominent gift in your life, the other gifts that you have will actually come and complement the one gift that you have. That's the only way you can actually leave footprints on the sands of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pastor Mudzengi, for allowing God to use you in this time. And thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week, same time, same place, at the Compassionate Couch.